Welcome to the Introduction to Google Earth workshop. I'm Janet Reyes, the Geospatial Information Librarian here at UC Riverside Library. And this is a refresh of a workshop I gave about 2 years ago. A few things in Google Earth have changed pretty significantly since then, so I thought it was time to give a refresh of this workshop. This workshop is being recorded, and in a week or so, once we get the captions edited and everything like that, it'll be available on our library's YouTube channel. There's a geospatial playlist where you can find previous workshops on other topics and also non-geospatial topics. We have quite a few workshops up there for people to look at. So hope you'll give that a thought. And toward the end of this workshop, I'll post some links in the chat where you can find the recordings, and also a link to a evaluation of this workshop. It would just be really quick, just to give us an idea of if we are hitting the mark on what you were expecting from this workshop, ideas for other workshops, things like that. If you registered for this workshop and I have your email address, you will be getting a follow-up email from me with a copy of the slides attached. The slides have many links in them that might be of interest to you. So yeah, you'll probably want to take a look at that if you're going to do any follow-up work with Google Earth. I think that's all I needed to share as far as housekeeping goes. So let's just proceed. And I think we have a pretty small group here. So if you have questions as we go along, it's probably okay to either put them in the chat or maybe even unmute yourself as I pause between sections, and we can address your questions as we go. So we're starting with the UCR land acknowledgement. We'd like to respectfully acknowledge our responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water, and air, the Cahuilla, Tongva, Luiseno, and Serrano peoples, and all of their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. Today, this meeting place is home to many Indigenous peoples from all over the world, including UCR faculty, students, and staff, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these homelands. So here's an overview of the workshop. We're going to touch mostly on the first 3 bullet points, Google Earth on web, Google Earth Pro, and then Google Earth Engine. Then there are several other related products that we'll look at a little more briefly, and touching a little bit also on Google My Maps, because that is something that might integrate with your use of Google Earth as you go along. I have some caveats or just things to watch out for as you're using some of these platforms. And then finally, resources for you, more links that weren't already in the presentation as we went along. So let's start by talking about Google Earth on web. This is not the original Google Earth. Google Earth Pro, which is the thing we'll look at second, that was the original version of Google Earth. But they created this web version, I would say maybe less than 10 years ago. And it has changed a lot in the last 2 years. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to go over it again in this current workshop. And it's very easy for you to find Google Earth. It's just on the web at earth.google.com. You can, if you'd like to, you can go ahead and go there right now if you wanted to kind of look at it for yourself, but I'll also be doing a live demo of some of the features in this platform. So as you can see on the slide, it is a web-based platform for viewing Google Earth imagery, for Street View, and more. For browsers, it works on Chrome, which you would probably expect, being a Google product, but it also works on Firefox, Edge, or Opera. And if you're ever having trouble with the way it's performing, like it's really laggy, or sometimes you get this black screen repeatedly, one suggestion is to look at your settings and see if you can find something that enables hardware acceleration, and that might help with the performance getting a little bit better. Google Earth for Web provides both drawing and measuring tools. There's a few other things you can do with it, including creating digital storytelling projects. And I'd like to point out a scholarly example of this was in 2020, the first year of the pandemic. Our geology professor, Nick Barth, was going to take his class to Yosemite Valley for a field trip. He could not do so. So what he did was create a whole project in Google Earth where it took them place by place to all of the sites that they would have visited in person, and he had extra content to explain the things he would have explained in the field. It's really quite remarkable. So that's just one example of how we can use this in an academic setting. Yeah, and there's lots of other possibilities with all kinds of topics as well. So this is a slide that shows you some of the features, and what I thought I would do is just, let me go back to the previous slide, click this link, and we will take a look at, this is what you see when you pull it up at first. It won't zoom into UC Riverside, it's just used to me getting there. So that's why it popped up for us right away. But I want to talk about some of the things that you can do here. So let's start with the controls down here at the lower right. If this person icon allows you to see street views. There's two ways you can get to street view. One is to click on this once, and then all the streets that have street view available are now lit up in blue. Then you could zoom in and pick a particular location on a street and click, and it would take you to street view at that location. If you don't want to do it that way, another way you can do it is just drag and drop this little person to a street, and it'll also pop up into street view. This icon only means like it would show my current location, which in this case I do not want to do. This button allows you to tilt and see it in 3D. It also spins the view around. It's not my favorite way to look at 3D. What I'd rather use and what I recommend for you is to use this control. So if I click on this thing that looks like a compass, it allows me to tilt the view so we can go like this. And if you wanted to look in a direction other than north, you manipulate this. So that works pretty well. And then just to get back to north, you can just click this button. And of course, you can maneuver the tilt to however much you want. It's also possible to tilt and spin the view by pressing down, if you have a mouse, pressing down on the mouse wheel without spinning it, which is what I am going to, well, I'm going to zoom out a little bit first, and then I'm pushing my mouse wheel, and I'm just doing that, and it allows me to get that 3D view. And as you can see, we have some mountains close by, so that comes up really nicely when you look at it at a tilted angle. So a couple different ways, a couple different ways you can get to that. Let's see, let's go up to the top here. If you wanted to find a particular location, you can type in the location or the name of the place, whatever in this, maybe even an address. And this I'm feeling lucky allows you to, well, if you just push it, it'll take you to this random place on Earth, anywhere on the planet. And like a Wikipedia article about that place will show up. So it's just a nice way to maybe, if you have a couple minutes and you're waiting for something else to happen, you can just do that and maybe find out about a place on Earth that you didn't know about before. This tool allows you to add a place mark or a point on the map. This one will allow you to add either a path, which is a line, or a polygon, which is a shape or an area. This is your measuring tool for distance and area. And then this tool is allows you to see historical imagery. And this is something, I'm going to go back to flat now. Go back, stay. Okay. This is something that they added to Google Earth for Web in the last couple of years. But what you can do is if you push this, you can see now that there's several years worth of imagery. You can go back as far as you want. Like right now, we're looking at March of this year. And I believe the earliest in this location is around 1984. So it goes back quite a long ways. It's not necessarily going to go back to 1984 everywhere on the planet, but that's what I'm seeing, at least in our local area. So you have the option to look back at a particular slice of time. You also have the option here of switching to time lapse, which is, like it says, it kind of cycles through all the different images over that period of time from 1984 to now. And it really helps you see, like in our case, we have quite a lot of development up in, say, this area. So let me see if this will come through if I switch to time lapse. And what you're going to notice is that it's really fuzzy when it first starts. So don't think like it's broken or anything. It just takes it a while to get used to getting into the time lapse mode. So let's see what happens. And now we can see that up here the years are going by. And we can see more and more buildings being added in this area. Now it's looping again from the 1990s and forward. So anyway, you can do that for anywhere on the planet. It's a pretty cool feature. I wanted to talk about the layers down here. And this is a little deceptive, I think, because I click on this and it looks like I don't have many choices here, but really, if you hover over on the right-hand side, there is a scroll bar. And then that lets you see all the choices for layers. So you can choose to have the satellite imagery, which is what we're seeing now, or a different type of like a regular map. You can choose how much detail you want on the map, like all these labeled features. Sometimes this is kind of a intermediate setting that I have now, but if you wanted to see everything Google knows about every place, you would switch this on. You can customize how much information you have on the map as an overlay. You can bring in projects, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Historical imagery, we know we have that available. And this is a feature that might be of interest to a lot of you. You can switch on the ability to see ground photos. So this is in addition to Street View. These are just photos that people have uploaded to this platform. So you'll be seeing not just things that are visible from the street, but wherever they were in the area, they took a picture and uploaded it. So sometimes that can be helpful, especially if it's something like you're doing field work and you can't necessarily get to particular locations yourself. You might be able to just see what other people have taken photos of and get a feel for the area there. So yeah, there's many more things in settings or layers rather than you might see or might have expected when you first click on this. I also wanted to point out settings up here. And with settings, again, there's a bunch of things that you can adjust. The one I think that might be of most interest is this one, formats and units. So the default is for things to be in the metric system. If that's not something that you would like to use, you can switch it to feet and miles and things like that. So just be aware that you have those options. And the last thing I wanted to show you on this view is that if you go over to this icon for Google Earth for Web, that lets you look at projects. And I am now going to, well, I'll just click on that so you can see what that screen looks like. And I'm going to go back to the slides now and talk more about projects. So let me fast forward through the slides that show you what I was just covering as far as what some of these tools allow you to do. Here's where we were looking at the historical imagery. Here's the layer options, the settings, and now we're at projects. So this is basically you can create your own app, like a presentation or a learning object, and it can contain all the things I've listed here. Videos, links, slides, in addition to text and images, all kinds of things. So if that helps you tell your story, this could be a really nice tool for you to use. You would start a project by logging into your Google account. And I have a link here for a tutorial that leads you through the steps on how to make a map or a story. I also have a link here at the bottom that allows you to look at other tours or projects that others have created. So we need to talk a little bit about KMLs and KMZs. If you're familiar with GIS at all, maybe from ArcGIS or QGIS, you know that if you're making points, lines, and polygons and you want to share them out, the file format is called a shapefile. The equivalent of a shapefile in Google Earth world is a KML or a KMZ. The KML is a small to moderate size file. A KMZ, like think about a Z like a zipped file, so it's got it contains a lot more information than a KML, or it can contain a lot more. And I wanted to point out too that it's possible to convert from a shapefile, like one that was created in another type of GIS, to a KML and back and forth. So it's it is possible to do that. You could bring a KML into an ArcGIS session and vice versa. And so that there are options on that projects page for you to either create a new project or to import like an existing KML to the current map project. Okay, that was it for Google Earth for Web. Now I'm going to talk about Google Earth Pro, which is the desktop version of Google Earth. And this is the original. This is what's been around for quite a while. It has not been updated a whole bunch, honestly, but it still could be the tool that you might want to use for particular applications. So an overview of Google Earth Pro. Like I said, it's a desktop installation where you can import and export GIS data, including scanned maps and GPS data. You'll notice like both Google Earth for Web and Google Earth Pro, they're great for visualization and maybe capturing information, creating maps and sharing them. Analysis, not so much. There really aren't any analytical tools in here to speak of. So that's one big difference from some of the other types of GIS that you may be familiar with. But like I said, you can create those KML files, projects, and narrated tours. I want to give a scholarly example of Google Earth Pro, which is another professor here in our geology section, Dr. Minnick. He mapped tree species in the Californias, which means like from about the Bay Area, San Francisco area south into Baja California. He created layers of this distribution of each species of tree, and he looked around at different options and he decided Google Earth Pro was the way to create this, this atlas. So that's an example of it being used in an academic setting. With Google Earth Pro, it is possible if you have a spreadsheet that has information about point locations, whether by address or latitude, longitude, it is possible to upload that spreadsheet and Google Earth will create a map of points for you from that. And like I said, with Google Earth for Web, this does have historical imagery. This is the one that had it first. So it does go back to about 1984. There's also several data layers available in Google Earth Pro. The way you get to Google Earth Pro is to go to this webpage, and you'll see options for downloading. It's available for PC, Mac, or Linux. And this is what the interface looks like. Again, if you're familiar with GIS, it's pretty similar layout to what you see in other applications. You've got some icons at the top that are tools that allow you to do different things. On the left-hand side, you've got kind of the layers that are active and some of the files you may have created. Over here, these are some of the tools that, in Google Earth Web, they look a little different, but basically this allows you to spin the view away from north, and you can also, tilt the view as well, and zoom in and out, of course. But let's look at some of the features that top bar that had icons that allow you to do different things. So here we have, this is pretty self-explanatory. If you wanted to create a point, what Google calls a place mark, if you want to create a polygon, or if you want to create a line or a path, those are the buttons respectively that you would use for that. If you wanted to add an image overlay, like a scanned aerial image or maybe a scanned map, you could do it using this button. I think there's a tutorial out there where they bring, I forget if it's Yosemite National Park or Yellowstone, but like a historic map of one of those parks, and you can lay it on top of Google Earth and see it in 3D and all that. It's really pretty cool. This button allows you to record a tour. So if you have places that you want to show somebody else in a particular sequence, you could do that and make a recording that other people could view. I'll come back to these next points, these next icons in a moment down below, but I just wanted to say here's your measuring tool. Here's where you can mail what you're looking at or print it or save it. You can also look at your current view in Google Maps or in Google Earth for Web. So these three buttons in the middle, I think are pretty interesting. Like we had in Google Earth for Web, you have the ability to show the historical imagery. So it's very similar setup where you can look back at the years that are available and click on the one you want. This sunrise or sunset button allows you to change the time of day that you're looking at. So if knowing where the shadows are at a particular time of day would help you tell your story or help you understand what you're trying to find out, you can make that adjustment. And then the planet button is really cool because the default is Google Earth. But if you click this planet button, you also get the option of looking at the sky, meaning like the stars, the planet Mars, and our moon. And that's another great way to spend a few minutes if you're in between tasks and just want to look at something interesting. It's really quite remarkable to be able to do that. And they have like the locations of expeditions to Mars or the moon on there and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to show this slide because, again, in other GIS platforms, when you think about tools, there's like hundreds of them, right? Here, not so much. And the tools that they do have are slightly different in what kind of things they can do. So the tables are kind of like an attribute table in GIS. It just shows you information about the place marks that have been created. The GPS option, you can either import data from that was collected from a GPS or even enable real-time tracking, which is kind of interesting. The movie maker, yeah, that's if you wanted to create an animation, obviously, of things that you're seeing on Google Earth, and you wanted people just to view it as a video file, and there's guidance on how to do that. Region 8 just means that enables there to appear less data as you are zooming out, and it's not all piled up on top of each other. And then, yes, there is even a flight simulator. I tried this once. I did not do well. I crashed my plane. I'm a little traumatized by that, so I haven't tried it again. But if you have the ability to manipulate the controls on your desktop or your device and successfully launch or take off and land your plane, that could be a fun thing to do as well. And you can pick any airport in the world and fly from one to the other. It's really pretty cool. So at the bottom of this tool set of information, we have the options button, and I wanted to show you what you see or the kinds of things you see when you click on that. And this is about the touring, right? So if you were going to, again, create something where you're guiding people from place to place in a particular defined order, this allows you to, like if it's things that you have stored in a folder, which I'll talk about in a minute, how much time between each feature, how long are you going to wait at each feature. You can change all of that. You can change the camera angle and the tilt and all that kind of thing. So those are the kind of things that you can manipulate in this options section. So we have just a few words about maps, projects, and tours, the kind of items that you can create from using Google Earth Pro. So you can organize your content into folders. Kind of like instead of creating a little file, you can just create individual points, lines, or polygons. And then on that left-hand side of your screen, you can organize them into a folder and save the folder as a KMZ or a KML. If you wanted to record a tour, you can even have audio narration as you are guiding your viewer from place to place. And it's recommended that if you have your locations organized into a folder, it's great to make the recording from the folder rather than kind of just recording your mouse movements as you go from place to place. I did try that second option one time, and it is really pretty awful. Even though I thought I knew where I was going and I was going to be very smooth, it did not turn out to be smooth at all. So if you record from a folder, you can make those settings like I showed you previously. And then, that would probably work better as far as user experience goes. So I've added a couple links there about how you can go about adding features and making a project in Google Earth Pro and how you would go about creating a tour. And then I mentioned about creating points from a spreadsheet, and this is possible. I have a little bit of explanation here. In theory, I'm not sure how often it works, but you can upload a CSV file with either latitude, longitude in different columns or street addresses. And you can do that two different ways, either by going to File and then Import, or you can drag and drop the CSV file into the map window. This worked for me. I tried it a couple weeks ago, and I had like a CSV file with about 2,000 points in it, and it all came out. It seemed to be fine. It used to be very, very clunky and very, very temperamental. So I am glad it seems to be working better now. However, I guess there are still enough users who have had problems doing this that a faculty member at Lehigh University created a couple of story maps that guide you through using Google Earth. And in one of them, she says, another way to get your CSV data into a KMZ file is to run it through Google My Maps. And she has a tutorial embedded in that story map to show you how to do that. And there's also some converter apps out there, and I've listed 2 of them there. So that would be another option where you can, have your CSV and it'll create the KML or the KMZ for you. And lastly, here's a list of, or a screenshot of the available data that Google Earth Pro comes with. And it looks pretty extensive. This will be one of the things I talk about when I get to the caveats or the things to watch out for at the end of this presentation. So I did see a couple of things in the chat flash by. I think looks like we're good, but let me just check that real quick. Okay, yeah. So are there any questions so far about either Google Earth for Web or Google Earth Pro? Because the next thing we'll go on to is Google Earth Engine. And this is a very, very different type of application in the Google Earth suite of things. So Google Earth Engine is designed for earth science data and analysis at a global scale. So we're talking like really big files, really big areas covered. Remember I said Google Earth for Web and Google Earth Pro were not the best option if you wanted to do any kind of analysis, really. This is the opposite. This is where you go to do big time analysis with earth science data. So Google Earth Engine, this is based in the cloud, and it provides imagery and remotely sensed data and some of the derivative products from those features, like extracting information from the remotely sensed data, and that's available to you in this as well. So you've got data sources that you can use in Google Earth Engine. And then you also have the ability to do analysis in Google Earth Engine. So the nice thing about having this in the cloud, of course, is that for researchers, they don't need to spend a lot of time fussing on downloading data and figuring out how to manage these huge files in their local machines. It can all be hosted in the cloud. And with Google Earth Engine, the focus is on manipulating raster or grid cell data, which I think we're all familiar with that. You understand there's like a grid of some exactly same size squares, and each square is assigned a value. And that's how digital imagery comes through, and also remotely sensed imagery, information such as maybe temperature readings or reflectance or some other type of thing like that, which is different from points, lines, and polygons that we were talking about earlier. And the power for performing these analyses is backed by Google data centers. So really high powered. I'm seeing a question. Let me take a look at that. Data storage for Google Earth Engine separate from any personal workspace allotments. Yes, I believe that is true, Roland. I think once you have a Google Earth Engine account, that is going to be different from anything that, like, say, UCR provisions as far as limitations on workspaces. I myself do not have a Google Earth Engine account, so I don't have direct experience, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So to get access to Google Earth Engine, what you would do is fill out the form that you find at the location you see on the screen. And you then receive an email titled "Welcome to Google Earth Engine," and with the instructions for getting started. This information I have about this says that users are only allowed one Earth Engine account associated with one Google account. So if you have two Google accounts, like maybe one associated with your academic institution, one with your personal, you can't have a Google Earth Engine account with both of those. You have to pick just one. So these are some of the things that Earth Engine has: a web-based code editor. You've got access to these APIs that you see on the screen. Any analysis that you do in Earth Engine can be downloaded, and then you can go ahead and use that information in some other tool, right? So Google Earth Engine might just be one stop in your research data flow, but it is possible to bring that data into other things after you're done with it in Earth Engine. And it's also possible for the user to import or upload data sets to Earth Engine. And when you do that, you can share it with everybody, or you can just keep it private to yourself. And it's also possible to upload shape files, or those points, lines, and polygons, those kind of files, as well as raster data. The raster data is the grid cell kind of data. So here's a synopsis of what's available as far as imagery goes. The first three, Landsat, MODIS, and Sentinel, are acquired by satellites, and you can see there's a good time range. So if a time series type of analysis is what you're after, this would be a great source for these kind of satellite imagery or remote sensing information. And then NAPE, the National Agriculture Imagery Program, is only for the continental United States, but it is a really pretty good, high quality, thorough imagery source for the continental US, going back to 2002. And then there's a few other high resolution imagery options as well. And then here are some of the data sets. So you can see from this that we're really talking about earth science and climate type of things are the data sets that they have available. These are some of the derivative products I was talking about. And some ways that people have used Google Earth Engine are in habitat modeling. Which an example is on the left here, malaria risk mapping, which is this example over here, and also like an assessment of global surface water. So that gives you an idea of the types of purposes for which people have used Google Earth Engine. And here are some resources about Google Earth Engine. Again, it's pretty sophisticated, so yeah, it's not something just to dabble in. You really have to kind of know your way around in order to use it effectively. But I wanted to add one more slide here, and that is there is something called Google Earth Engine Explorer. And this is available on the web to anyone. You do not have to have a Google Earth Engine account. You can use Explorer to view and visualize the data sets that they have. So I have done this part. I have gone through the tutorial here. And what it just means is like you can browse if you were interested in what the screen shows is elevation data. You can bring that into what you're viewing. And if you wanted to change how the data is sliced up into different categories or what the colors look like or things like that, you're able to do that. So it's nice. You cannot, I believe you cannot download it though, but you can at least look at it in Google Earth Engine and get some idea of what some of these data sets look like. Okay, we're doing pretty well for time, so I want to get on to some of the other Google Earth products. Let me just check chat real quick. We're all good there. So one thing is that there's Google Earth for mobile, which is very much like Google Earth for web, except it's for your mobile device. And you can see it's available for Android or iPhone. So not too much to say there. There's a Google Earth Studio. So we talked a little bit about making tours or movies from Google Earth Pro. This would be taking it up a notch to a more professional finished product. I don't know, you've probably seen like newscasts or maybe sporting events where it looks like they're kind of touring around a city very slowly, arcing through some of the landscape and everything. So this would be like a really nice, smooth, polished output, but you're using Google Earth imagery to create that content. And you create these products by using keyframe animation. And you access Google Earth Studio by filling out a form, sort of similar to Google Earth Engine. And then you just wait to hear back whether you've been accepted or not to get an account for Google Earth Studio. So it does require that you already have a Google account, and it also requires using Chrome. But notice that for people in academic institutions like us or nonprofits, they are allowed to use Google Earth Studio for free. Probably, corporations have to pay for it. So we're kind of lucky here in that sense. And in addition to using Google Earth imagery in the products that you create with Google Earth Studio, you can also include simple features like maybe a few point features, even a moderately sized KML, which might have a few lines or shapes on it as well. But nothing too heavy duty, not like hundreds and hundreds of features. That just wouldn't work in Google Earth Studio. And I have a link at the bottom of the slide for tutorials and documentation about using Studio. Okay, this is the other part of Google Earth that has changed quite a bit in the last 2 years since the last time I gave this workshop. Google Earth Augmented Reality. And I found that there are 2 products now. One's, I'm not even sure how they pronounce it. I don't know if it's AR Core or ARCore. But anyway, that's the augmented reality. And that's an example of which you see at upper left, where that robot is waiting to cross the street. And what this does is allow people to create virtual content that the user will see through their phone's camera when they're out there in the real world. So you can create the program where this robot is standing at this particular street corner, moving back and forth, and then that will be apparent to whoever's got this loaded on their phone. Google Geospatial Creator is a different thing. It's like you don't have to be in the real world location to see the items that have been created in Geospatial Creator. So it's enables people to use Google Earth imagery, Street View, whatever, but they can add objects that are floating or on the ground or whatever, and there'd be content that other people could look at. Yeah, as long as they had the link to the thing that you've created, the file that you've created. And the last time I gave this workshop, there was something called Google Earth VR. That is now gone, but there is something called Fly, which is a virtual reality app that runs standalone on MetaQuest headsets and Apple Vision Pro. So I guess the thing with Google Earth VR was that you had to be plugged into a computer in order to use it. You had to have your headset plugged in. Fly is now a standalone app that does something similar to what Google Earth VR used to do. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Google My Maps, just because they often integrate so much with the other Google products in the mapping world. So I've got the link there for information about Google My Maps. So you can create simple customized maps to share. So if you need to make a map for that's not too complicated and you don't want to go through the learning curve of learning a whole full-blown GIS kind of thing, Google My Maps might be a nice option for you. And you can access My Maps from within your Google account, but not your UCR Google account. We do not have that option available to us using our Google accounts through UCR. However, I can get to Google My Maps through my own personal Google account. So there you go. You might want to, if you have any other Google accounts besides the ones at UCR, you might want to look and see if Google My Maps is an option for you there. And then I showed also at the bottom on your mobile device, you would open a browser and go to mymaps.google.com. But this is the interface for Google My Maps. As you can see, it's very streamlined, I would say. You can add points, lines, and polygons. Again, we're not doing much in the way of analysis here at all. So there's a link to a tutorial and some help. If you are familiar with JavaScript, you can use it to add some more functionality to your product, such as customizing maybe what the point markers look like, or the colors that are available, the styles, things like that. But yeah, Google My Maps, it's pretty simple, and it's really meant to just be a basic tool for making basic maps. I do have a link at the bottom with some of the recent upgrades to Google My Maps. So if it's been a while since you even looked at it or tried to use it, this article might have some information about what's new. I think overall, Google does not update these products all that often. They are pretty static over time overall. So yeah, that's one thing I've noticed about that. Okay, I'm going to pause just a second and going to pop something into the chat. Go back. Okay, so I've now put into the chat the library website. We can find out about other events like this, where you can find the recording, and the assessment. So if you feel like filling out an assessment after we're done here, would be much appreciated. So will I send out the slides as well? Yes, I will. If you have registered for this workshop and I have a good email address for you from that, you'll be getting a copy of the slides. Maybe later this afternoon, maybe tomorrow morning, something like that is what I plan. And of course, the links are going to be super helpful. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, for caveats, which is like just things to watch out for. I'm seeing a question about, is the slide deck a video available for non-UCR folks? Yes, again, if the video will be viewable to anyone who can find it in the world, and then the slides, for now, I'm just sharing them, with people who have registered. So yeah. So again, guidance or things I've noticed that you might want to know as well. When you're looking for help regarding Google Earth products, a lot of times there's outdated guidance that comes up in the search results. So if there's a way that you can check the date on what comes up, that might be helpful. Sometimes I'm not really trusting things from 2012, for instance, when I do these kind of searches. When you're using Google Earth for Web or Google Earth Pro, there's going to be variation in the dates of the most recent imagery. So just because you're looking at Riverside, say, and they have imagery from March 2025, that's great, but don't assume that wherever you go in the world, the most recent imagery is going to be March 2025. It could be like maybe some places are ahead, some places may be lagging behind. So yeah, don't make any assumptions about everywhere in the world is covered for the same date. And similarly, the image quality can really vary from place to place. So again, don't make assumptions about, wow, this imagery from 1994 is really sharp here, but that doesn't mean you go somewhere else in the world and imagery from 1994 is going to be super sharp and easy to interpret. Sometimes when using Google Earth for Web, if you're using it and you get a black screen popping up, which happens on my desktop from time to time. It's kind of an old desktop, so it's not able to keep up with the visualization so much. Sometimes you can just get rid of that by just restarting it. Or I have a link to advice for fixing that, that black screen or that might happen to you. So yeah, I think maybe as devices get better and stronger and more graphics capability, that'll be less of a less of a problem, but it still could happen. And finally, remember in Google Earth Pro, I showed you that list of all the layers that they have, like they had campsites and restaurants and things like that. My experience is that those can be quite outdated. So I would not want anybody to look at Google Earth Pro and think, wow, now I have a database of all the churches in the world or something like that. I do not think it was ever super thorough, and I think it could be very much outdated in terms of what they have available. So just a word of caution there. That's not a good data source for those types of features in general. All right, so here's a list of more resources for you. Those tutorials I mentioned by the professor at Lehigh University, I think they're great. And I just wanted to share them with you because I think it's really good. They're good introductions for the different things you can do with Google Earth and how you can do them. So, but of course there are tutorials and resources and a community where there's people ask questions and things like that. So with that, that concludes this workshop. We have time for questions if there are any. If there's anything you want me to go back over, or we want to take a live look at something, we could maybe try that. But otherwise, I thank you for your attention. Thank you for coming today. And again, if you've registered, you'll be seeing an email from me pretty soon with a link, a link to where the recording will be, and also a copy of the slides with the links available.
What would you say are the differences between using Google Earth Engine and ArcGIS, other than the computational, they give you resources? What other differences are they?
Wow. I would say that for those maybe who are online and maybe not heard the question, the differences between like using ArcGIS and Google Earth Engine as far as computational things go?
Other than computation.
Other than computation. Well, Google Earth Engine, like I mentioned, is really raster friendly, you know, that's its strength. And certainly you could not do too much, I'm guessing, unless you were writing code to manipulate vector data in Google Earth Engine. You know, other than that, I think it probably can handle really large databases more easily than other GIS products. I haven't seen any documentation on that really. That's an interesting question though. But those are just my initial impressions. So.
And do we have like, does the Google Earth Engine have like satellite imagery from like, it said 1994?
Yes.
So it has, we have access to like this. Okay.
Yes. So if you get a Google Earth Engine account, you could find and you know, manipulate the satellite imagery from back to 1994. There's other ways to get satellite imagery as well, but this is just, if you're using Google Earth Engine anyway, that would be a nice convenient way to get it instead of having to track it down and load it in and everything. Yeah. I'm seeing questions here. Yeah, Nicole made the point about outdated information from Google. Is the Google field order? Oh, good question. Let's see. Go back. It looks like we're having longitude, latitude. Roland's asking about the field order. But again, I think it's similar to other GIS where if you're loading in, say, a spreadsheet of points, as long as you have a column that's labeled latitude, longitude, or something similar, for that particular option, the system will figure out which way it is. Oh, you've had things fail, yeah. So again, I haven't tried this lately as far as uploading things, but I don't recall that being a problem. Maybe I just hit it right by accident, but yeah, it worked out okay when I tried uploading a spreadsheet of points.
Well, also, is the My Maps application more towards commercial use? Like, say, if Disney opens up a new park, they might create the map in My Maps, like that?
Yeah, something like that, or say, you know, even personal use, like you're having a family reunion and you just want people to have a simple map that shows this is where you get off the interstate and this is how you get to the campsite and all that kind of thing.
Oh,
so people,
yeah.
you know, people just use it for that kind of purpose as well.
Okay.
But it can be, I think the tutorial has an example of like shark sightings off the coast of some place in Africa or something like that. So, you know, it could be something like a government agency that doesn't have a high-powered GIS or something. They could, if they have to make a map, they can use something like Google My Maps. That. Great questions, everyone, and I appreciate your engagement. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I thank you again. This was helpful, and yeah, stay tuned for more presentations from the library in the weeks ahead and the quarters ahead.